This is a quick video just to show a way of making charcloth for firelighting. So this is just some of the finished cloth which is made from some old cotton tea towels. So I've just cut those into sort of 2.5 inch squares so they fit in a little tin. I've made a reasonable amount, so I'll just put some of it in a plastic bag and then just have a few little sheets so I can start fires just using a flint and steel. So this is just an empty individual sort of portion baked bean can, and I've got an old paint kettle which was originally galvanised, but I've been using that quite a lot, so the galvanising's burnt off and the can's actually, or the tin is getting quite thin. It's getting a few holes into places as well. And you can just see a little circle there where I've been producing the char. So the little tin itself, I'll just quickly show you this one. This one's come out of the fire, so it's still hot. And what happens, as you expose the char to oxygen, it will just want to ignite on its own. So when you make char, it's important just to let it cool down in the tin. Otherwise that will go up in smoke like that. You can see that's just igniting. So what you're doing is you're putting this into a fire, but not allowing oxygen to get to it. So it's just getting hot enough to char, and then that's the point where it will ignite. But because there's no oxygen, it can't actually burn. So you can see that that's going up quite happily on its own. So once you've taken it out of the fire, just leave the can upside down. There's no air getting to it, and it will just continue to char if there's any remaining little pieces of cotton that are still intact. So I use the paint kettle just to pick the can up, well, fill it up with little squares of tea towel, push those into the can. Don't stuff it so it's really compacted down in there. It needs to get a little bit of air so that the gases can distribute around there and char each individual piece. So that stands upside down in there. And then I've got this old wood burning stove which I use outdoors. This is just one way of doing it. You can just do it on an open fire or a little camp stove, like a kind of butane one even, or a paraffin stove or whatever. So once I've got a fire going there, it doesn't need to be a massive fire, but you need some nice dry wood. And then I'll just pick up a little paint kettle, just push it into the little stove itself, and then what happens, that will heat up, the wood gas will come off from the upside, or the inverted tin can, baked bean can, tuna can, whatever it is, and then those wood gases will ignite and burn off, and it sort of helps to sort of fuel the fire as well. And when the flames or when any smoke stops coming out of the tin, you know that's all completely charred. And so on top of the stove here, I've got another I don't know, it's like a sweet corn can or something like that. I've just got that on there just to sort of let it cool off, and it's obviously still hot on there. The fire's just died down, so up to a couple of minutes ago it's still hot enough to actually char the wood that was on top. So I'll leave that there to cool down, and then I'll just bring that in. So this is an old stove that was on the street. I picked it up. It was missing a leg. I think the leg's a cast iron. Someone's broken a cast iron leg, and they've obviously refurbished and they've put this out for scrap. Unfortunately, the spigot where the flue attaches has just been sawn off quite badly, but there's still enough there to weld something to kind of make it a little bit more of a thing. But ideally this would go into a little outdoor kind of garden room with a proper twin wall insulated flue on there, and you could actually get some like Zebo black grape polish and really tidy this up. The ceramic or the refractory bricks are inside were split, so there's a little angle iron brackets where they went, and it's got a baffle at the top as well, so the heat doesn't just go straight up the chimney. And I think one of the handles as well was broken, but there's no fire glass in there, and I think the nuts and bolts are sheared off as well, so they need drilling out and tapping out. Then some fire rope around there, a little piece of borosilicate glass in there, sort of Pyrex sort of glass, and then it wants another piece of fire rope around there. Then it would be a nice little stove. It's got an ash pan. The ash pan handle needs to be drilled and tapped, and have another little handle put on there. Well, the handle's there, it just needs threading. And that was a little cast iron grate as well from someone's fireplace. It's just sitting on an old concrete paving slab with some old house bricks. There's a little hearth around the front, which is quite good. So doing things like charcloth. It gives you somewhere to put the pieces. Just well, so I'll let that cool down, and then once they're cold, I'll put them in a little plastic bag so they're ready to go. So when you go camping, you can keep the flint, the steel in here, some fire cloth, charcloth rather, some fat wood, I don't know, just little bits and pieces so you can get a fire going. With the charcloth, you'll need some dry kindling. So what you do is you chip a spark off the fire steel with a flint, catches onto the charcloth, and it holds an ember quite well, so that'll continue burning for I don't know, 5 minutes like that, and that gives you long enough to make a ball of kindling, or a sort of dry grass in the summer, something like that. Get the ember inside it, hold it in between your hands, just sort of breathe out, get some air, get some oxygen going through, and then that will start to heat up. That'll char the wood around it, and then that'll be enough to make your fire. So obviously when you're starting a fire, just using an ember, you need nice dry timber, so it's a good idea to have lots of nice dry kindling to sort of get it going. And obviously once you've got a fire, you've got a way of drying out wood, so ideally keep some for the next day, and then that gives you something to sort of start off with as well, so you're not trying to burn wet material. In this little kit, I always say keep a little brass, a decent quality pencil sharpener, a little plastic one. So then what you can do is when you get twigs like this, you can dry out some nice twigs, scrape off the bark as well, so you get the dry part of the inside of the timber, and then the smaller ones, maybe sort of 8 to 10 millimeters, you can use a pencil sharpener to make some nice shavings to get some kindling as well. So you've got a mix of materials to get the fire started. But what I'm doing here, I'm using these old tin cans. Obviously once they've been used a lot, once the plating's burnt off, there won't be much of the can left at all, and some of these things I'll just use I'll just use them until there's nothing left, and then probably just vermicompost them as well, so all the iron will be worked into the soil as well, so there's not really anything left. So you can see it like here, this is just scales of iron oxide, which just breaks up into really fine filings, so in a way it just becomes an aggregate. There's no plating, there's no zincs, there's no galvanizing on there, there's no tin left whatsoever. It's just, you can see it's pure iron oxide. It kind of looks like a Ford Cortina or something like that on the bottoms of door skins. Yeah, so that's it, charcloth and fire starting with a flint and steel.